Keynote speaker and travel trend spotter. Sarah has more than 20 years marketing, sales and digital experience across the EMEA and APAC. She currently leads a digital marketing team at TripAdvisor across APAC, so she's very, very well person to do this next presentation. Sarah also served as the youngest female chair of PATA, including the roles of vice chair and immediate past chair. Sarah is currently serving on the regional board of IAB, SEA and IN. I sort of think I know what that means, Sarah, you can explain that in a second. Born and raised in Hong Kong, Sarah's lived across the globe, including London, Beijing, Australia, and is now back in Hong Kong. But guess what? Sarah is not in Hong Kong. She joins us all the way from London. Sarah, hello.
Hi, how's it
It's
going?
about midnight there, isn't it?
Just gone.
Do you have a coffee or a nice glass of wine?
No, I'm just ready to rumble.
Ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, please scream, yell, clap so she can hear you. Sarah Mathews, yay!
Hi, everyone. It's great being with you guys virtually. I wish I could be there in person. I'm sure you guys are having a great time and being engaged and being able to see each other after so many years. So I wanted to share with you guys some of the latest trends that we're seeing at TripAdvisor. I think one of the things that's been most interesting in the last 2.5 years is, data is crisis proof. And we need to look at data all the time. It's evolved. The previous trend data that we would see no longer exists. What was a week ago may no longer be the trend again. So I'm going to be showing you what we've just recently pulled. It's mainly June and July insights. We do have some insights from earlier in the year. At first, when we were talking about travel, we were hearing the phrase, revenge travel, people getting out there, wanting to go on as many trips as possible. The latest one I recently heard was someone describing travel, especially air travel right now, as Airmageddon. Certainly I was really lucky. I had a really easy arrival to Heathrow. My luggage came out within 20 minutes. It was actually very, very easy. And I'm hoping that my continuous journey is going to experience that. So I think data and trends is going to help us consistently, because we can't rely on what we saw, as I mentioned, 2019, let alone, the last couple of weeks. So, when we look at our survey, one of the things we did at the start of 2020 was really pay attention to data and spend a lot of time running consumer surveys. We really wanted to hear what were travelers thinking at that particular point. We've continued this survey every quarter, and we've been running this survey with travelers in the US and UK, Japan, Singapore, Australia, India. We've recently added as well, to just give us a bit of a global view of where people are at. I'm sure many of you are already seeing this, but what's interesting is that the intent to travel, particularly when we asked this question earlier in the year, was very high. People are looking to travel a lot more, in fact, than they did in 2019, going back to that revenge travel idea, wanting to get out, see more places, and spend longer out as well. Now, I know you guys are currently in your winter, so apologies for the European naming of this. But essentially, we're looking at what is the current behavior of the traditional summer time frame, in Europe, in the US, and in some parts of Asia. So we wanted to share this with you because it is the most up-to-date survey that we've run. And what was really interesting is that when we asked this question, we saw that 44% of respondents are planning 2 to 3 trips this summer, higher than in 2019 and 2021. And what we can see, if you look at the graph, is you can see that most the highest bracket is within that 2 to 3 trips. One of my favorite, when I was, in Hong Kong on the underground, I heard this lady speaking to her friend, and she said, the moment I can travel, I'm going to do 4 holidays non-stop, back to back. And the only concern her friend was, what was she going to pack during those 4 trips? So you can see that 2 to 3 is really positive, and people are wanting to go out there. And as I mentioned, we pulled this in June. We also wanted to know, what is the time frame? How far are they willing to go? Living in Hong Kong, everything is a domestic trip for me in a way. We don't really have regional. Everything's 5 minutes away. And to be fair, I did my fair share of staycations to support the industry. But what we see is that 67% of respondents will travel, are really planning domestic trips, more than 2 hours from home. So really looking at that regional, but within their own country still. 43% are planning international trips, and around 40 are planning local trips. So less than 2 hours from home is what we're determining as local. I wanted to share this with you. It again just pulled up until sort of late June. For many of us in Asia Pacific, we've been living with more conservative behavior and restrictions. But what's been really exciting is just in the last couple of months, we've really seen APAC start to pick up a little bit faster than previously. And so if we look at the behavior of this June compared with in January, it's more than doubled in terms of that behavior, clicking on hotels within the region. So really positive to see people are looking to travel. When we look at this globally, what we are still seeing is that the majority of international is going to be later in the year. We're seeing that sort of September, October, really focus more on that international trip. I think right now people are still traveling, but if they're traveling internationally, it's very regional. Super long haul there is, but the volumes are nowhere near back to 2019 levels. One of the things that has not changed and continue to remain is, what are people doing? They're really spending a huge amount of time outdoors. They want to be outdoors, and that has remained the top experience and attraction that we're seeing being searched on TripAdvisor. We do see that sites and landmarks are coming up. We see that nightlife has started to pick up again, which was really positive. We've seen in some markets shopping picking up, but in general, it's really being outdoors and having an outdoor experience where is what's really driving and fueling travelers' interest. What we also asked was, well, what are they looking to do? And one of the things that we're hearing from people is 40% want to go to places that they've never been before, and they think it's more important now than in 2019. So lesser known destinations are probably going to get more travelers researching and planning to go there. They want to, 38% consider going somewhere very different to where they currently live. So again, moving away from the 2.5 years they've been stuck living in that environment, they want to go and do something very different. 33% consider immersing themselves more in authentic local experiences. And this is more so than in 2019. And again, it plays greatly into this idea of, people really want to experience travel in their own way, but also being mindful of how they travel and being able to really have the experiences. I mean, to be fair, travel has always been about experiences, but I think it's much more about the immersive experience now. Again, this differs by region, but what we've noticed is that people are looking to do a lot less on their trips now than they did in the past. In the past, you see sort of people wanting to do as much as they can when they visit a new destination. Whereas now we're seeing people kind of wanting to have less activities, but more free time, more time for themselves to do what they want to do, and not sort of jamming too much in. So I think that's very important when you think about the planning that they're going to be doing coming to New Zealand. By nature, it's a destination where there's the distance and time to take, I think helps travelers plan that trip the way that they're looking to do that. What's really exciting is that people are planning to splurge. We're going to talk a little bit about inflation and what they're willing to cut. The good news is that they're not currently willing to cut any travel plans, but they will be making some spending cuts in other areas. But in general, we do see people willing to spend a little bit more to get that right holiday. One of the things I noticed a lot of people talking about is spending a little bit more, to fly in a different class. So going up into business or premium economy, spending a little bit more, to have an easier flow with local transportation. So we're seeing that splurge come out. Not a huge amount of changes here, but we see that desire for learning and that immersive experience, that history and culture is really important, 60%. Events are coming back. For many of us, music festivals have been a challenge, not being able to go to them. But we see that 55% are considering visiting specific attractions, and events are going to really help drive that planning decision, as well. And as I mentioned earlier, it's really positive to see that nightlife is coming back. What we still continue to see are road trips, that desire to rent a car, when you get to that new destination. So again, something really for New Zealand to think about is, getting that fly drive, travelers coming over, being able to kind of create their own itinerary, within their own pace, being able to get off the beaten path. I think people are really looking to do that a lot more. And so we see that desire for road trips continuing. What's positive news as well is that we still see hotels are the preferred accommodation, followed then by vacation rentals, and then resorts, bed and breakfast, family and friends homes, of course, hostels further down the line, but hotels still remain sort of the big area that people are searching and booking their holiday accommodation. So we do still see COVID impacting travel. It's very interesting. I'm here in the UK. I just landed a day ago. I'm still masked up, no one else is. I come from a city that everyone masks up. So bear in mind that different people from different cities and countries will have different behaviors dealing with COVID. But what we overall globally see is that, over half feel really comfortable traveling this summer. That desire to travel, no longer being locked in, wanting to go out, that pent up demand is really there. So that's positive. We see that. And we see people are really excited, optimistic. We ask them to describe how they're feeling, and 72% describe themselves as feeling excited, optimistic, hopeful, 22% are cautious, and 11% are nervous. What's also very interesting is we asked, what were their thoughts about COVID? And 44% have accepted that COVID is here to stay and they have to live with it. 21% still feel nervous about COVID and would like to take all possible precautions. So again, we really need to break that out a little bit more and looking at it by region. So for example, if you look at Singapore, most of their regulations are now out. Cities open again, but you still see a large volume of people still wearing masks. Japan is not fully opened yet. It will open up soon. But when you think about the Japanese traveler coming to New Zealand, there may be an adjustment period. China, for sure, we know Right now, they still have very severe quarantine requirements, but when they can travel, they'll probably again go through an interim phase adjusting to travel where they're going to be a little bit more cautious. So being able to sort of manage those differences are going to be important. About half of respondents missed pre-pandemic mask-free traveling. I'm due to go to Greece in 2 weeks' time. Everyone's warned me it's going to be very warm. Um, and the good news is we've recently heard that they don't require mask wearing other than when you're on public transportation. But what we also asked them was, what are the other things they wanted to be able to see? So no need to take COVID tests, um, to being able to travel easily to densely populated areas. No proof of vaccination was one that also came up. Convenience of last minute booking travel plans, and being able to travel back in larger groups. What hasn't changed, and I know this has been a real challenge for many businesses, is that need for flexible policies. What people are still looking for is free cancellation and refund. We see that 36% spend more time researching travel destinations before booking. Again, because right now, if you were to fly to Cambodia, what are the regulations? You probably need to do a bit of research. What do you need to prepare? 31% are spending more time reading reviews about destinations before, but we do see that need for flexi policy to still remain. Travelers are continuously looking for that, so that they can feel that sense of confidence if they are traveling. One of the concerns, as I mentioned right now, is with Armageddon. I'm due to fly to Greece. It's all been booked, but there's a potential our flight might be cancelled. So do we have flexible policy? And yes, we do. And so those are one of the sort of the key requirements that we had when travel planning. So I mentioned I was going to share a little information about inflation. I'm certainly aware that many of us are starting to feel the pinch. Um, what we wanted to know was what's happening out there. Is this going to impact their decision to travel? 45% would spend slightly less on non-essential things. 34% would spend significantly less on non-essential, and 15 would practice the same spending habits, and 6% are not sure. So what we asked them was, what were they prepared to sacrifice out? And mainly it looked like things like dining out, ordering in, entertainment, gym membership, upgrading mobile phone, home renovations, TV and music subscriptions. So we are seeing that they're willing to cut down on other things, but currently not on travel. So 85% still plan on traveling this year. Now, we are aware that rising fuel prices, will that impact road trips right now? We're not seeing that right now, but again, when we look at this in our next survey, will we see that impacting? So I also wanted to take the last few minutes to share some specific insights that we pulled for you guys. This is from this week. So what's really positive is that we've actually seen the traffic grow. So users looking at all New Zealand traffic. Now, this is only international users. We did not look at domestic. So any international eyeballs looking at New Zealand content, we've really seen grow. And if we look at, certainly it's not back to 2019 levels, but if we compare June 22 to earlier at the start of this year, it's grown by 170%. And so this has been really positive to see that. I know that your borders are now open, that you can see that international travelers are looking to come in. And hopefully we will continue to see that. We've also seen bookings go up, and this again is international, not domestic travelers. We've seen a triple digit growth compared to January of this year to June of this year. Now, the numbers are nowhere near back to 2019 levels yet, but it's a positive sign to see that that border opening really has made an impact. And where are your source markets? Probably nothing, no major changes here for you, but Australia, US, UK, Singapore has come up. Canada, India is a big source market, particularly for travelers who are countries that really in the past had a big share from China. We know that China currently is not traveling internationally yet. And so who's going to be able to fill some of that gap? And India and potentially Indonesia are the two markets in Asia Pacific that has the big enough sort of middle class volume willing to travel, and they could be a good source market for New Zealand. We see South Korea there, Japan there, but as mentioned, you don't see China in there. And again, that's very much down to the current restrictions of COVID. We also wanted to ask what people are asking about in this, current last couple of months. And there's a lot of questions about advice on itinerary planning. What are the must go and see attractions? Which itinerary is better? Sharing of COVID protocols, questions about travel insurance, transportation questions. So it's really positive to see that people are engaged in the forums, asking lots of questions, trying to understand what are the latest regulations. And so, the community is out there helping travelers who are asking these questions. So again, really positive stuff. There's so much data I can share with you all. I much prefer to do it in person. But as I mentioned, it's really positive. We are seeing travel come back. For Asia Pacific, we're not quite there yet. We're really hoping to see the latter part of this year and really 2023, where we're going to ramp up, especially with more borders opening up, with more of that confidence interregionally with travel. And also by then, one of the big challenges, which I certainly don't need to tell you about, is that the industry is really suffering from the fact that there's just not enough people to work. People down with COVID, we've seen that at the airports, across the industry, we know that there are challenges. Hopefully by then we'll be able to get back, more people working in the industry to then help manage that demand. With that, thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely speaking with you guys. And as always, thank you, Adrian, for including us.
No worries. Thank you very much. Please thank Sarah. Make Scream go, yay, so she can hear you. Thank you very much, Sarah. All right.